Hey, how we doing, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Full Kit No Plan, where me, Aldo Ocampo, and your co-host Jesse Lauren are here to welcome an amazing guest, Mr. Dave Walzer, who's gonna be speaking about his experience in the military, his experience post-military, and enlightening us with all that wisdom he's got over the years and bringing some tools that could help us out and help the community grow. Anyway, hey Jesse, I'm kicking it off to you. How you been, brother? How's the past week been treating you?
Good, I'm doing good. The past week was amazing, dude. I was able to kind of get some time to myself and recenter, ground myself in and be prepared for this week. So
Isn't it
it's
always all
it's all
good? All
good,
right,
baby.
all
It's all
right, all
good.
right. Well, hey, you know what? Big on
Yeah, yeah.
I'm big on just living every day to the fullest, right? So that being said, I've had the pleasure to meet this amazing person, and I say that with the inspiration in my heart. Honestly, when I met Mr. Day, honestly, I was like, man, who's this guy? Everybody knows this man. I'm out here in Phoenix, as you guys know, and everywhere I went, people talked about him. If he wasn't there, people talked about, hey, you got to be around Dave. So, hey, we're going to bring Mr. Dave Walzer here to introduce himself and let us know a little bit about himself. So, hey, Dave, come on board. Talk to us. How you doing?
Hey,
Awesome.
welcome
I
in.
am wicked psyched to be here. Thank you. Thank you, Aldo. Thank you, Jesse. Anytime I can hang out with a couple of fellow veterans, even though, you guys are Army and I'm Air Force, still all right, still cool. But I really appreciate you inviting me on here. And man, it's exciting. It's exciting. I love hanging out
I
with
was going to
us.
say, you know what? I mean, it doesn't really count. Chair Force, I mean, you were kicking it, right?
Who was 911 for everybody? It was the Air Force. When shit really was happening. What was the favorite
Yeah,
airframe?
yeah,
A-10s, I think. I'm pretty sure those are Air Force
yeah. Real
Yes,
jets.
quick,
yes.
I would get excited when we go out on mission. I'm like, all right, we got the boys up there. We're gravy. Let's go do some work. Hey, from us, where'd you grow
Heck
up?
yeah.
What are you all about?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Boston area. Actually, let's start from the beginning. So, how I'm aligned, right? I'm aligned God, country, family. And that's how I do it. Like we just said, I served in the Air Force. I grew up in the Boston area, Massachusetts, and I didn't do well in college. I wasn't really focused. There was too many girls from other places that I had never met, and too much other stuff that I hadn't done. And I just, if I would have had like a GPA, but for social activity, I would have had a 4.0 on that shit. But that's not how they grade you. So I had like a 0.75 GPA one semester. I was not fucking stellar at that. Um, I could have been had I applied myself, but the distraction thing. And, you know, one of the things, it was really, actually, it was a really a big deal. I joke about it. So my family growing up, my dad grew up without his parents, and my mom, big Italian family and all that fun stuff. We didn't have a whole bunch. When they got divorced when I was like 14, we had way less. And when a family's already kind of struggling financially, and then a divorce happens and all that stuff that goes with it, it was a very interesting time, and it was time that I grew up. So I helped out with my brother and sister. My brother was 10, my sister was 6, and like walked to work at 14. You're not driving to work. So I would get it, depending on where you walk through and depending on the time of day or night. Sometimes it wasn't a good idea to walk through them areas, but there was no choice, right, to get to where you're going. So I would have like sock money and stuff like that for when I got robbed. They wouldn't get all my money. They wouldn't get the sock money. They would get the rest of it. But and jump and whatever else, you got to do the stuff that you're supposed to do, right, to help out your family and everything like that. So I'd get him, get my brother and sister ready, and I just, looking back on it, had I not been so proud when I was younger, I would have gotten professional help much earlier than I did. I was of the
Yeah.
opinion that was for weak people to talk to somebody about your problems. I was under the opinion that, it didn't do anything. You're just, the fuck is wrong with you? And it was just one of those things. My dad served in the Army, was drafted during Vietnam, and my grandfather served as a CB and great uncles. And that's just kind of how those guys did it. right? Fucking therapy. What are you talking about? You know, it's what? Yeah, you talking about what? You know, it was crazy. It was like a foreign thing. And man, I can see it now. However, a lot of things, you know, would have been, first of all, there's no regrets. I don't regret anything that I have experienced, been through, or done in this lifetime. Because everything, right? Everything that I've done, it was through God's purpose to get me to this point, to get me to the next point, right? So all of those things that happened for us and all that stuff, thank you for all those experiences. All right, let's go forward, you know? And so I decided to go in the Air Force because, well, I wasn't really doing the best stuff where I grew up. My grandfather, man, he was the best. And we would have supper at Nana and Pa's house after Mass on Sundays. And we were over there, and I told them, the whole fam, hey, I just enlisted in the Air Force, and, you know, I'm out of here and all that stuff. And my grandfather was like, oh, that's great, David. So after supper, he's like, come here, let's go talk. And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, first of all, good job. Happy that you're going in. Second of all, when you get out, don't move back here. Don't come back to this place. He's like, I see what you're doing. He's like, don't move back here. He's like, and I was like, what are you talking about? Huh? You know, and he's like, seriously, David, this isn't home. I don't know where home is for you, but you'll find it. And whenever you get to home, you plant your flag and you become an asset to your community and you bring people together and you make it a better place. And I was like, all right. You know, I was like 19. I was like kind of upset that, you know, my grandfather was like, don't even come back. So I couldn't like even fully receive that shit at the time. Man, that was life-changing advice. You know, like sometimes we get advice when we're younger and we don't realize the importance of it or the gravity of it or whatever for years, sometimes 20 or 30 or like 40 years, you know, before it fully hits us. And, you know, that was one of those pieces of advice to whatever I got out, you know, and it was fun while I was in for the most part. You know, I got stationed in exotic places like Texas and Mississippi, and then also, you know, South Korea. I got TDY to Japan and stuff like that. So it was really cool to be stationed in a foreign country for a full year. Really gives you a huge appreciation for our country, no matter what country you go to. I was so happy to be home. I kissed the dirty ass carpet in the airport when I got off the plane. That's how psyched I was to be back to the States, you
Oh
know.
wow.
And
Yeah.
it was an amazing experience, like being over there and everything. But man, was I happy to get home, you know. Um,
Certainly.
yeah. And
That's
it was
amazing.
it was cool because I was there in 96, 97. And we still had like mail call and Mars phones and some different stuff. And man, I'm telling you, mail call, that shit was, I thought it was like, whatever, who cares? Man, I was 22, I turned 23 over there. That was, that shit was so important. So important. You know, you could touch home when you got a letter. Man, that's from home. You know, even being across the world. And man, I didn't realize like the power of that stuff until I was experiencing it, right? And so being stationed overseas, it gives you a different perspective. And I love how God builds us, you know, kind of foundation. And so growing up where and how I did, very hard worker. Like you can't beat somebody that doesn't give up. I don't give up. Even if I'm fucking
Yes.
dead, I'm still not giving up. You know, so like having that and then going in, you know, to the military, right? And basic training, going through that, what does that build within us, right? If we all learn it, but we don't all apply it when we get out, right? And all of us have different reasons for applying things and not applying things when we get out of the service. But the problem solving, especially on the fly, huge thing, right? The mission is the mission. Just get it done. Plan A, plan B, plan C, plan fucking Q, doesn't matter. Just get it done. So that's when you get out, and maybe you guys experienced this too, because this was like a really pain point, frustration thing for me. So I got out and I'm in the civilian world again. And I still have the same mindset as I did when I was in the Air Force. You know, got a job. All right, we're a team. Let's fucking go. Let's go. And no, it wasn't the same. Those guys, you know, the being let down by your peers, you know, I was like, huh. Yeah, we didn't have to really deal with that. Every once in a while, you had some ass that you had to send to like Thule, Greenland or some shit. But, you know, it was few and far between. And the politics of like corporate, right? When I first got out, I was like, "The hell is this?" I'm like, huh? Like I wasn't good. My interview, the guy that interviewed me, thank God, was an Air Force veteran too. He'd been with that company for 24 years at the time. My interview was the worst one in 24 years. Worst. Because we didn't have a transition program. We had this thing called Blue to Gray. And like the tech sergeant that was supposed to do it on this Saturday, he walks in, gives us the books, writes his name on the board, and was like, so do you guys really want to be here? It's like a nice day. We could be like doing something, literally anything else right
Blew
now.
it out.
We were like, yeah, cool, let's go. So we all left.
There
That
you
was our
go. You're
transition. I had my little
prepared.
book, and hey, there we go. All right, checked off. Go sign this. It's good. It's good. We're good. Yeah. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
ready to rock. So my interview,
Shoot it.
and you might have to beep some stuff because I'll just kind of go verbatim with the answers to some interview questions. So there I go. I get out, and the lobby's full of like other guys waiting to get interviewed for this sales job and all that stuff. I thought I was going to get on with the airlines, but Y2K was coming, so they weren't hiring us. What can you do? You know, confirm that you have the job before you move across the country. Just saying. You could, or you couldn't. I didn't. I moved across the country. It was good anyway.
And it was all part of God's plan anyway, right?
Yeah. Shit, yeah, brother.
Exactly. Hell yeah. I love it.
So I go in for this job interview, and the guy's asking questions, and he's like, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I was like, 5 years. I got your job in like fucking 2 years. You're retired. I was like, 5 years, I'm running this fucking place. I'm in corporate. I'm doing some shit like that. He's like, okay, all right. Couple more questions. And he's like, okay, this is the last one. I was like, all right. So I stand up, you know, and he's like, why should I hire you over the lobby full of people and everybody else that I've interviewed for this position? And I go, because I'm the best motherfucker that ever walked through these doors. That's why. If you want to make some money in this fucking dump, finally, you'll fucking hire me. That's why. Shook his hand, walked out, and he like catches me before I hit like the main doors to go outside. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, first of all, literally the worst interview I've ever been a part of in 24 years. The worst. I was like, okay. All right. And the other guys are like snickering, like sitting down waiting to get interviewed. I was like, all right, thanks. I was like, where can I improve? He goes, don't worry about that shit. He's like, you got the job. If you're half as good as you think you are, you're going to crush it here. And you're right. We are going to make a bunch of money. And I was like, awesome. And so like
Yes.
a couple of the guys were like, well, but you
Nice.
just said it was the
Awesome.
worst. And he's like, yeah, go home. And he's got
That's
the
freaking
job.
awesome.
I love that. And that speaks a lot to that mentality in the military, right? It's like from basic training, you're indoctrinated to just think you're the shit no matter
Yeah.
what. And if you can't do it, fake it till you can, you know, that type of deal. And
Yep.
it really does. It comes in handy a lot of times. And when you get into the civilian world, because you know, and you touched on it a second ago, we're not on the same frequency.
Right.
Like they're completely different frequencies.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if you
ours is a knowing frequency, right? Like
right,
we fucking know whatever it is that we're doing. Once we decide to do it with intention, it's fucking done. There's no wavering. There's no, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't feel like it now. No, it's done. It's happening. And that's it.
Yep.
And that's a huge difference because they don't have that. Like even with romantic relationships, right? Oh, I love you forever, blah, blah, blah. And then like they get mad about some nonsense. Done. Over. Huh? What happened to, no, we're in this thing
Yeah.
together and then, no, all right, whatever. Right? But
right.
it's a vast difference in mindset. It really is. And the quicker that we realize that, once we get out, the easier the transition is. Because I was upset with a lot of people for a long time because they were fucking idiots. You know, and I'm like, what, dude, what the fuck? You quit? What are you talking about?
And
Quit.
that's
You know?
yes,
like,
you know
man.
what? You beat me to it. I was gonna bring that up
Yeah, that
because you
resiliency,
brought
I
that up
guess, right?
earlier, right? And that's that
Certainly.
resiliency. And well, Jesse, go ahead. You were gonna say something, but yeah. So you know, and I
No,
think
I was
that's where
waiting for you to go.
a lot of us veterans get caught, right? And that transition period again, because we're so used to again, just fucking get it done. Let's go. We know what we need to do, and then when we're around others that don't think that way, don't operate that way, it gets frustrating, right? Because it's like, okay, what's holding you back? Why can't you just do it? Like, what do you mean it doesn't feel this way? Or what do you mean you need to ask? Or so
Yeah.
a lot of us get stuck there. And unfortunately, you know, there's that never make it out, right? And it's just if we can weather that storm. And I don't know, I need to look up, like, if there's like some kind of statistic, and anyone watching out there, shoot over some comments. But if there's a statistic about a timeline, is there like a 24-month span, a 36-month span? I don't know, Dave or Jesse, if you guys know, but like, is there a thing where, we can prepare as we're exiting out the military to weather that emotionally, right? To overcome the fact that we're going to get back out there in
Yes.
society where people don't think like we do. It's like you mentioned earlier, Dave, you were out in Korea and you got the mail call. I mean, when we were out and deployed, right? It's like you go and you come back to the States and you realize, like, fuck, everyone's living their fucking life. And for you, I mean, you were living a life, but
Mhm.
I mean, life kept moving, right? So that's another aspect of it.
Yeah.
Or even if you don't get deployed, you're in the military, you're experiencing the military, how you're experiencing whatever branch you're in, right?
Mhm.
I think we lost you.
We might have lost them. But that is a good point. Right, the mentality. I think really that's what all the branches should focus on. Just the mentality thing, man. And it's taken me a lot. Like I've had to do this a number of times for different levels, but just accepting where they are and also choosing not to sacrifice my values, our values, right? As former military members, I'm not going to backslide and be like them. Not that I'm better than them, right? Or anything, nothing like that. I choose to live my life in the most positive way forward, forward. So, how do you do that? Well, you got to be comfortable and happy with yourself. And when we compromise core stuff, right? Man, that fucks with you. We don't need that on
Oh,
top
for
of
sure.
everything else. So,
For sure.
so we're
There's
taught
no
to
hiding from
blend
your
in, right?
subconscious.
We're taught to blend in the military. We're the same. And how crazy is it when we get out? What made us all the same makes us stand out like a fucking sore thumb in civilian life. So now that's another layer of shit. You're like, fuck, I was taught to, we're all the same. And now I'm standing out big time.
Yeah, it
Spotlight
becomes
is on
so
me,
apparent, right?
right?
You're just like, oh man, I have nothing in common with the 90% of people in this room. And because of that, I don't know how to act. And oh, by the way, from basic training on, they have dismantled my entire nervous system and built it back the way they wanted to. And then let me back out into civilian world. They didn't take the same time to put everything back.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and you're absolutely right. That's such a great way of looking at it. It's like, man, we go from blending into sticking out.
And you know what? I do want to
Yeah. It's like letting, a bunch of wild animals loose in the zoo.
out on the streets,
Yes,
the zoo
absolutely.
gates open.
And then they get mad when we act like animals.
Hey, but you know what?
Right.
Also, on the flip side, I was
Exactly.
going through some information I was reading up on veteran success stats, right? And post-COVID highlights, actually. One of them is as veteran-owned businesses are growing. As of 2023, there are over 1.76 million veteran-owned businesses in the U.S., generating over 1 trillion in revenue annually. I mean, you know, as crazy as we can be, that's
That's
how we
how we do
fucking
it.
do it, right? So we gotta highlight that. We gotta highlight that determination, that resiliency.
Exactly. That's what makes us. So we get out and they're always talking about unique. Yeah. Yeah. They're always talking about the unique selling proposition and stuff. That's totally us. Thank you.
Oh, for sure.
Thank you, military. You just gave me a business. If I'm aware enough of the gift and I choose to accept it and not take the fucking easy path to whatever, right? Now let's go ahead and forge our own way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a lot of it is terminology too, like coming out from the military. Like you said, easy path, and it's like I took the easy path for a minute, and it was rough. There's nothing fucking easy about it,
The easiest
you
path
know.
is always the toughest path. The easiest thing is always the
Of course,
toughest
right?
fucking thing to do.
Of
Always.
course. And the problem is that you have to go through that path in order to realize that truth.
Mhm.
So if we can find a way to cut that off before it starts, but then it's like at the same time, if you don't go through it, like how are you going to learn the lessons that you need to carry yourself forward? And so if we're able to just lend a hand and hold a light to people walking through that path, I think it's going to be one of the best ways of moving forward for sure.
Hey,
I
hey,
agree, brother.
Dave, you know what we were talking right before you
Oh yeah.
joined? We were talking about the marvelous, was it space exploration that happened just recently, and how we should be so grateful for these ladies that went out. I don't know if you heard about it, Dave.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
We like to infuse
Good for them.
a little bit of laughter as well here on the podcast, man.
They if they paid for it, go nuts,
Isn't that crazy? But that doesn't help.
It seemed actually for something that was supposed to be so momentous and everything, right? It's supposed to be like historic, and it was, I suppose, right? Man, they didn't get a lot of reps on the old media stuff. It was really kind of surprising that there wasn't more about it, like everywhere leading up to that. I
I
was
was
like,
asking Jesse that. I was like, I don't know if I
Yeah,
was
that's
in.
what we were talking about. It
Yeah, I don't
was
know if
like
I
there
was in
was
hermit
nothing
mode,
coming.
Jesse. I was telling Jesse, I don't know if I was in hermit mode, but I didn't hear nothing up until like I guess it had already happened. So that was a thing,
yeah, I heard it. I think like the day it was supposed to happen. And I was like, that's
you
all
know?
right. That's
And
cool.
those are some of the challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like when they were on the way back down,
Yeah,
they
but
turned the
and
cameras on.
again, it goes back to some of those challenges right outside of what we have to deal with as veterans, right? Coming out, now you're dealing with society that's having to deal with as well, right? And as you
Mhm.
grow and you overcome those opportunities, I say, and you come into yourself and you want to try to give back, right? You want to try to give back. So how can we give back? What is it that we can do? So I want to,
You don't try to give back.
you give,
You don't try. You
absolutely.
just fucking do it.
Amen.
You give back because this is like one of the craziest things that I figured out. Again, would have been cool to have this in the blue to gray transition program back in 1998. Would have been nice. So all of us, when we get out, there is a huge hole left by the decision that we made that we didn't think about when we signed the paper. What did our signature include in our contract up to and including our life and service for our country? And you don't think about it I didn't think about it when I signed it, but that shit hit me like a fucking freight train a few years after I got out. Like all kinds of stuff was on the news and I didn't like, a lot of stuff in the country. And I was like, really? I was like, I lost fucking friends for these people? Come on, seriously? And, a lot of us were fun. And that hole, we're going to fill it with something, right? It could be alcohol, drugs, womanizing, um, pornography, you name it, anything. It could be anything, right? Or we can fill it with understanding and love and peace and gratitude. But none of the good things will be in there if we don't serve. That, even though our enlistments may have been 2 or 4 or 6 years, or we served for 30 years, or whatever it was, that signature was a lifetime. And when we stop serving and isolate, that's when we SIE.
And you're a great example of
We
that.
got to serve. We got to make sure our brothers and sisters are serving in some way. That's how you affect massively and positively our suicide rate in our community. All of us need to realize that we all have to continue to serve in some way, or else it's going to
Absolutely.
fucking kill us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a wonderful way of looking at the world, and it leaves very little for negativity and evil and, the lower vibrational energies to come in, when you're completely filled with gratitude and presence and joy and happiness and love and, all of these things, like lower energies just don't have any room, and that leads to very positive
And
outcomes
and I
around it.
want to highlight, Dave, you do an amazing job of serving, man. Again, I'm in awe about how you move, how you infuse impact within the community. And that's just one thing that, again, I said again, it's just inspiring. And I want you to share a little bit about your Wicked Awesome Happy Hour. That's just one thing you do, but it leads to a lot more. So if you could share with our audience here, so
Yeah,
they could learn a little bit and they get to know, how you give back.
you got it. Man, so Wicked Awesome Happy Hour, I started that. I'm not from here in Arizona. Moved out here 14 years ago. 12 years ago, I started really like wanting to meet people because I was in a new industry, life insurance, and didn't know anybody. I did know that people are the engine that drives business, and I didn't have an engine. So I had to meet some damn people fast. So I joined every networking organization that there was, Chambers of Commerce, Latip, Networking Phoenix at the time, BNI, you name it, everything. And I didn't know how to network. I just knew I needed to meet people. And so I had some friends, Rick, one of them, he still comes to Wicked Awesome Happy Hour, which is cool, kind of mentored me in the networking thing. And then after a little bit, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my own one also. Not that their stuff was bad, but I was pretty good at throwing parties in high school. So I figured I could do the same shit at somebody else's place. And just for a few hours, everybody take care of your own shit. You know, that's so I thought Wicked Awesome Happy Hour was going to be a lead generator for my life insurance and annuity business, which it was, is still, and other businesses, but that's not why I did it. I didn't know why I was supposed to do it, although, like I said, I thought I was supposed to do it for that reason. The night before, I had a dream, and God told me it was my ministry. And I was like, happy hour. I'm like, what shots? I smoking joints. I'm like, he was right. It totally was. It totally is. So the first one, I had 12 people. Pretty good. I was like, 12. I got you. All right. I get it. And I was so excited because 8 of them people I didn't know, and they showed up. That was like the coolest thing. I was like, wow. And so at that first one, like before you do anything, you got to make the decision to do it. So I was like, I'm going to host this happy hour every single month until I move or die. That's it, no matter what. So that was the first decision. Then I knew all the stuff about the other networking organizations. So I was like, I'm not going to do any name tags. I'm not going to do 30 or 60-second commercials. I'm not going to do vendors. I'm not going to do speeches. I'm not doing shit except greeting people when they come in, everybody, so I can look them in the eyeballs and welcome them. And that's a huge thing because I am so thankful for every single person that shows up. They could be doing something else with that time, and I feel honored that they decided to share their busy life
Yeah.
with me, even if it's for 30 or 40 minutes or the whole 3 hours. I am so thankful that they heard about
Yeah.
it and came to check it out. And so that's how I greet everybody in complete love. And it's awesome because like we think about stuff and going through different therapy and different modalities, right? And all that. And I realized after the first couple of Wicked Awesome Happy Hours, I was noticing some stark differences in people. So there was the group, like me, like us, that is abundance mindset. We talk shit, whatever else, but I know there is more than enough for all of us to have every single measure of success to whatever we deem it is without taking anything from anybody. So when you move like that, stuff really opens up. The book, The Go-Giver, it's a great book. That's just how I strive to live every single day. I continually give. If there is somebody I can help, I do it. I don't think about it. I don't wait. I don't bicker with him about that. I don't want to do it. No, just do it, right? And same thing with knowledge, you know, with the happy hour, being in abundance mindset. It's so funny when you see people that aren't, and I'm like, oh, we used to be there. That's cool. And like one of the most telling things, right? Because I'm in financial services, right? And so when someone comes up and they're like, Dave, that guy does the same thing that you do. I'm like, yeah. They're like, why is he here? I'm like, because he's welcome to be here. Because somebody may not relate with me, but they'll relate with him. And he's like, that's crazy, man. I'm like, yeah. And they're walking away like, that's so nice. I remember being like that. That's good. That's good. And then, you know, that's those, you know, the scarcity, you know, all you're talking shit, all that. So a couple of months in, a buddy of mine was going through a divorce and he wasn't feeling his best. I know exactly how he felt. I found out a couple of years later and sucked, you know, so he's in the happy hour and he's like, just all like pissed and everything. And I was like, look, brother, I'm sorry. My heart hurts for you. I know she was your everything, and man, it's just shitty, and I just feel terrible, and I'm sorry. Now, with that being said, this place isn't about that shit. So either fucking leave or go pull yourself together and come back. Either or. But you're not doing that shit here. Sorry. And he got up and he went for a walk or whatever, and came back a little while later, and he was cool. It's very important when we see something that is out of alignment to stomp it the
Uh-huh.
fuck out.
100.
Absolutely. 100%. Energy is contagious and that
Yes.
shit breeds like a yeast infection.
Yep.
So it is
So
so important.
it is. And the coolest thing about what I was saying to my friend out of love
Of course.
was like a year and a half later, I'm walking through Wicked Awesome and I hear a guy, hey, bro, this place ain't about that shit. So fucking lock it up or get the fuck out of here. And I turn
That's
around
what's up.
and the guy giving the advice happened to be there at that Wicked Awesome. And I didn't even remember that he was there. I was like, holy shit. But it was so cool because he cared and the Wicked Awesome fam cares that much about the event, about keeping it in a positive abundance mindset, safe, peaceful, love-filled,
And it
God-protected
is.
environment. And yeah, to do that at the bars, people tell me they have for years, oh, wow, it feels like a hug from my Nana, or man, I feel like I'm in church. What's going on? That's crazy. And then when I hosted the first one over in Basel, Switzerland. So every month, Basel, Switzerland has a Wicked Awesome happy hour. I got flown out in January to host the first one out there. So I get there and I had given my biz partner some homework to find out who was the godfather or godmother of networking in that city and befriend them and invite them to Wicked Awesome. So I got to meet this guy and he's like, I've done many events in this bar and it never felt like this. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. It feels like an embrace from my abuelita. I was like, nice. I was like, do you know what that is? And he's like, I haven't felt it in a long time. I was like, you can say it. And he's like, it's God.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, that's right, brother. He's here. And he's like, wow, in this bar. I was like, yep, he's everywhere. And he just thought it was like shocking. And people are eating and drinking and having a good time and all that great stuff. But it was so cool to have the same thing that people have felt here in the States, the presence over there in Europe.
Phenomenal.
There's going to be Wicked Awesome happy hours all over the place. There's already like 6 more cities in Europe. We're going to be doing one in Dubai. A bunch of more cities are going to be opening up here in the States. So it's going to be an incredible year for Wicked Awesome happy hour. And next few, yeah, there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on because we're all
Hey,
fighters and we're all
it's amazing
warriors.
what you do, Dave.
But it's much more effective
Mhm.
when we're fighting with love and with light.
Absolutely. And I've been witness to that. And absolutely, you do greet somebody. You make us feel like we're at home. It's an interesting dynamic for me when I first joined. I'm like, man, what's going on here? You know, it's a bar. People are drinking, hanging out, but it's such a good, relaxing time. It just
Yeah.
feels good. And on another layer, like it's multi-layered, right? Like what you're doing because you're also creating this
Mhm.
positive economic impact within that location, that region. Everywhere you're going, you're just infusing positivity in every way. So, man, you're an amazing dude, Dave. And I was telling
Thank
Jesse,
you.
dude, you're Mr. International, and I'm glad you touched on how you're expanding across the globe, man, on the other side of the pond, and dude, and it's real. And
Yeah.
anybody out there, anywhere, when you guys hear it, you guys gonna see Dave's handle. Make sure you guys visit any of the locations in any city because it's absolutely an experience, and you're gonna grow from it in many ways. So, I appreciate you sharing that with us, Dave, because it is a thing. And if it ever goes to Maine, Jesse, you gotta join. If not, you gotta come out here.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, there's going to have to be one in Boston, right?
Yeah, there is going to be one in Boston.
Okay, that's like 3.5 hours, and I like getting out of the state
It's
anyway, so
worth
I'm
it.
coming down. I'm coming
Shit,
down
yeah.
for sure. You can book me in. You touched on something that I don't want to just gloss over because it's so important with the story about telling that we don't do this shit around here, and then it coming right back around, like everything always does, it comes back around to reveal itself, right? And I think it's interesting because it really highlights how much we really do affect and touch everything around us, even when we don't know. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but eventually that shit's coming back around. And so it's important on us to make sure, like you said, that we're moving in love and light and joy and peace, and making sure that those impressions that we make are lasting and positive, because you don't know how far that ripple, goes out through the pond.
That's
I
right,
think that
brother.
really highlights that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's key. You're right.
I
Yeah.
gotta.
And
Oh, this is
we don't always do our best, but that's the competition thing, to be better than I was yesterday.
yeah, the only person you're in competition with, for sure.
Yep.
For sure, and at the same time though, I would argue we do our best. Like sometimes our best is failing 98% of the day. But if you can honestly sit down and say, man, fuck, I really, it was rough, but I tried today. I
Yeah.
really, because God knows, He knows if you're bullshitting. You know if you're bullshitting yourself.
Yep.
So keeping that honesty, that trust between you, yourself, and the Lord, and it's
And even, you know what? Even um, when you have a real bad day, right?
yeah,
Being like, I am so sorry that I did whatever it was, that I lashed out in anger, that, whatever it was, that I didn't hold my tongue when I should have, or whatever
yeah.
it is. And it's okay to acknowledge those days too. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me through this day. And I'm sorry that I screwed it up, that I did, whatever it was, and turning that over, right? Laying that at the foot of the cross and letting
Certainly.
him take that.
So, and that's where forgiveness comes in. We talk about forgiveness a lot, and the majority of the time it's usually directed at forgiving others, but we need to start with ourselves.
Yeah.
If we can't forgive ourselves, we can't forgive others, and
Yep.
that's the foundational building blocks that really, make or break this type of mindset that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I got a question, and I'm gonna read it off here, so it's not off the cuff. Who do you lean on today, Dave? And I know you touched on the Lord, but for others out there, to extend or get close to somebody, a community or a resource of any kind, like who do you lean on today? Is it a mentor, a specific community, a networking to keep you grounded and growing, is there any advice you can give out there to veterans that are kind of on the cusp, or that have some days that, a little bit worse days like I've had, than better days, and that little short time of our life, where we're cut in that moment, right? Any advice you can give and anything you could share?
Yeah. The first advice is to take a few seconds and not react to whatever it is. Just take a few seconds.
Powerful.
That's good. All right. But also realizing that some days are going to be not that great. Sometimes even a business plan, right? You're like, oh, I got this great idea and I'm doing this. To be able to realize, you know what, wasn't dropping the ego, right? Is like a big thing, being able to do that. And as guys, it's kind of tough with us a lot of times. But realizing one, we're not perfect. Two, it's perfectly okay. Three, God loves us and Jesus is our Savior, and we are full of the Holy Spirit. God is within us. So no matter how many mistakes we made, or no matter how much shit we did, or whatever, God would never be in something that is unworthy or trash or evil or whatever. God wouldn't be any part of that. And He's part of you. So no matter what has happened in the past, you're still a child of God. And you're not lost. You're not irredeemable. You're worthy in His eyes, and you're here for a purpose. Those of us that are called to the highest purpose tend to go through the most storms and attacks.
Say that again for the people in the back.
Those that are called to the highest purpose are the ones that go through the most attacks.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
And understanding that helps you withstand It helps you walk through that fire, and also to lean on whether it's others, like a mentor or something like that. It's great to have. Or you lean into your faith, either or. I do both. And it's not a sprint, right? What we want for our life, what other people put on us that they want for our life, we can change it at any moment, right? We can realize, yeah, I thought I wanted to do this, but you know what? I realize God's calling me to do this, right? And release, go on the fly. Or sometimes we're really stuck in a dark place for a long time. And we just can't seem to get out of our way. Finally, we get just a little crack of light. Finally, this little crack of light. When you're in that place and you finally get a little crack of light, take action on something positive for your future self. Something. Do some push-ups, watch something on YouTube, read a book, do whatever it is. When there's that little tiny baby, take positive action massively and quickly, because that can help snap you out of those places much faster than stewing and spinning and spiraling. And those of us that are served are uniquely qualified to run shit in the civilian world. It's not even fair to the rest of them. Just saying. As long as we can hone our gifts, realize them, find a good team, and fucking rock that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because an individual can go fast, right? But a team goes far. A team gets the job done. And although it's painful at times to still have that military mindset, and all that, it's way better than not having it. Because even when we're alone, we're never alone. We have millions of our brothers and sisters that have gone through parallel experiences. Even if we feel like whatever we feel like, there's a bunch of us feeling the same shit. So even in that, we're not alone.
We're
The
never.
highs, the lows, the whatever. We're a part of a never-ending line of Americans that were willing to pay up to their life for a bunch of people that don't even like us, because freedom and liberty and the pursuit of happiness is worthy of that signature. And therefore, we are worthy because we signed that fucking paper. For the rest of our life, you can never take that from us. Ever. What were you willing to do with your life? I know what I was willing to do with mine. I got a DD 214 to prove that fucking shit.
Yeah.
What's up? That's
Wow.
So that's like some of the stuff that I'll use to kind of, psych myself back up and just, remembering shit and being like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, I got a question because when I listen to you, I mean, like Aldo said, one, it's inspiring. It's a very interesting energy to even coming across the screen. So while I had this opportunity, I want to know when you talk about military and using it from before moving forward, I guess my question would be, what are your views on using the military as an experience for lessons learned moving forward versus I find sometimes I'm guilty of this. I'm very guilty of this for a long time. Is when I got out it wasn't the experience or the mindset of the military and me as a soldier. It was an identity that I had grabbed onto so tight. And this is where, the ego starts coming in and he was holding on to it. And like that's who I was. There is nothing else. It's not even a mindset. It was so much deeper into my nervous system. And so I guess my question would be, how do we separate those two? Because one can be very detrimental and the other one is, as you've stated previously, a fucking superpower that, launches the rocket well into space.
That's right. That's a really good question, brother. And we can wrap ourselves in any kind of identity, right? It's not just having, being in, that's everything, that's our identity. It's also in sometimes with our job. Sometimes it's with maybe some volunteer work. Maybe it's with our partner, right? Everything that is another person has the potential to let us down. And that's okay. we have to detach ourselves from that, like letting go of the expectation of people are going to see me the same way forever. We're always ever evolving. And when we understand that no matter what we do, it's not us, we put us into whatever it is that we do. So there are defining choices, there are defining moments, right? In movies, there's a defining role or, whatever. And there is like that with life. But we have to just realize that it was just a part of the fabric that's us. It wasn't us. We're separate than that. We've worn different uniforms over time, with different hats, but none of that stuff defined us and made us who we were. We already had all the stuff that we had, whether we did that or something different. We were able to learn, right, from all those different experiences and all those different versions of us. Eamon Waltzer was different than me now, and dropping the ego and letting that go is tough. But it's really not when you make the decision to do so. Anything. What an amazing blessing we have to be able to have free will and to be able to choose how we respond to stuff, and even to ourselves. Like those times, and some people get imposter syndrome or different things, and no, you're supposed to be there. If you're there, you're supposed to be there. God wouldn't have put you in that room if you weren't supposed to be there. He wouldn't have had you in that meeting. He wouldn't have had you with that group. He wouldn't have had you any of those places if you weren't supposed to be there. And it's just like simple stuff, but I've, talked with so many people since I got out, and I serve on the Veterans Medical Leadership Council here in Phoenix. And then I serve on some boards and commissions, for veteran stuff as well. And just that mindset, continually working at being humble. Because we're not, and it's funny, and it's cool to be known, and all that stuff. I mean, it's kind of gangster when you can call like a club nobody can get into for months and be in there in like 2 hours. I mean, that's kind of cool. Or a veteran
Yeah.
calls you in crisis because their friend's about to take their life, and you're able to get them through to who they need to talk to at 11:30 at night when other organizations didn't do their job to the best of their ability. I like those calls. I like all of the calls. And I appreciate, the accolades and all those other kind of things. And they're nice. That's awesome. But it's not why I do it. Every single day when I wake up, I start with gratitude. Thank you, Jesus, for giving me another day to be able to continue on my mission for you. And then go do it, But gratitude is huge. It's huge. And using the fuel of the past, it's great. There's a lot of good knowledge in there. But detaching the other stuff from it, it's even better, But I would say, just the, knowing yourself, and sometimes it does take talking to, a professional or a mentor or, those of us, right, that have kind of gone through those iterations of self, and especially wrapping yourself up in that uniform. And it's like, oh my gosh, now what? Right? That was like the first thought. Holy shit, who am I? What do I do now?
Right.
And it's
Right. What do I do now?
yeah. And it's all right. It's part of the process. You're still you. You're actually a better version of you from before you went in many ways. Overall, net positive,
Yeah, yeah. And that's the way to look at it for sure. Man, that's awesome that you can see both sides of that coin when it comes to notoriety. Like that's the real gift of notoriety, like being able to call in and say, "Look, I need some help here. I have someone that really needs it," and you just happen to have those connections to be able to do it. I can only imagine how that feels, but I would think that it's very fulfilling.
It is. It is. That the hole from being in the military it's full. Serving, man, all the time, every time that I can, without expectation of return.
There it is. There it is.
Oh,
That's the secret. And I hope everyone hears what you just said.
yeah. So the first time I spoke in public, I was terrible at it. But the first time I did really good because I prayed. And one of the things, the company that I worked with, the big thing was the golden rule in trainings and everything. The CEO and founder, we live the golden rule of in this company. Treat others as you would expect to be treated. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. That's what we do here. So during my talk that I prayed and I didn't even know what I was saying, I checked them from stage. And I was like, I love that you do the golden rule here. Treat others as you would expect to be treated. Do unto others, all that good stuff. I said, but it's incomplete. And I just watched his face and I said, what needs to be at the end? Because this was Jesus that said that. The little module that needs to be for us humans, after we treat others as we would expect to be treated, we need to drop the expectation of return. And we need to do it just out of love and realize that is why we're doing it. Nothing else. That's it. So when you drop the expectation, man, you can really emotionally regulate much better.
Certainly.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
Dave. Yeah, you definitely walked the walk, man. And I'm so grateful that we were able to have you join
Thanks,
us
brother.
today and share all this insight and his experience with our community, with all our audience, and myself and Jesse. I know I'm extremely grateful to be able to just come around you and learn from you and experience all the positivity that you bring to everybody. And again, just being able to have you here, and as we're trying to grow our network and trying to provide an outlet for veterans to continue to grow and be successful and learn. And success is peace, right? So man,
That's right.
we're really grateful to have you on Full Kit No Plan. Again, there is no plan here other than success, right? So thanks again. And if you got any closing
That's right.
remarks, feel free to express it with our community. Let us know. And we'll be wrapping it up, man. I'm sure Jesse's got something to say as we close out. But man, thanks again for joining us. What do you got to say to close out, Dave?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this has been great, man. I love hanging out. Love chatting with my veteran brothers and sisters, because it's important that we have these conversations. And I love mentoring. You can reach out, call me whenever. Wicked Awesome Happy Hour is a great spot. It's always the third Wednesday of the month, 6 to 9 p.m. at a different local spot. It really is. This journey is all about connecting and loving on one another. We're all on this experience in this place together. So we may as well, as my pastor who recently passed away like a month ago, he had two things. One, love out loud.
Yes.
That is good stuff, right? And, to reiterate, it's always a choice, right? Everything that we do is a choice. We can choose to continually embrace patterns that don't serve us and haven't served us for quite a while, or we can choose to break those patterns and forge a new path. One that is lightly traveled, because that's the one that Jesus strode. We can choose to break those patterns every single time we see them, right? And choose to live in love. And I'll close out the way my pastor, Air Force veteran, Pastor Hardy, he used to close out all of our services at church, and I'm going to close here. Go out and give the world
So,
heaven.
thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm very grateful to have had this experience with you and listen to the things that you got going on and the mindset that drives purpose with love and humility really is what it comes across as. Dave, let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram, Dave Walzer, and Wicked Awesome Events. I'm on Facebook, Dave Walzer and Wicked Awesome Happy Hour. And I'm on LinkedIn, David Walzer, Wicked Awesome Happy Hour. Now, let me see. I think that's all of them. I might be on some other stuff, but those are the major ones. And then the website is www.wickedawesomeconnections.com.
Woo!
Great, perfect. Make sure that you reach out if anyone out there that's going through stuff that's, might be struggling or doesn't know where to start or doesn't know how to make those changes or break those patterns. Reach out, reach out for sure.
And you know what? Really quick, anytime somebody pops into your mind, call them.
Oh, don't say that, man. My ex-girlfriend's been on my mind for a hot minute.
Okay,
And
not her. Not her.
yeah.
But no, I'm just
So not everyone.
but like somebody you haven't that no, but someone you haven't thought of in a while, or all of a sudden, bam, Call them, because you know what? And I've seen this happen. Them popping in your mind is the answer to that person's prayer, especially in our community.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's important to call, because I've heard from a lot of people, including a friend in person. I called him. He's like, man, can't believe you called. He's like, man, I was just praying I need a sign to stay. I got my fucking pistol, man, and I'm done. And then you called out of the blue. Wasn't out of the blue. God tapped me to call him, and I called him. And that's what we should do.
Well, you
Give
heard
him
that,
a
ladies
call.
and gentlemen. You heard that, and that's power, and that's real. You know,
That's
let's
right.
tap into our own power and understand who we are, what we are, and the changes that we can bring to the people we care about, and even the ones that we haven't touched or been around with, right, physically, but we're always connected in some way, shape, or form. So I want to say one last thank you to Dave Walzer. Thank you to Jesse Lauren, the co-host of Full Kit No Plan. Appreciate everybody out there. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I want to welcome you guys to the next one, but reach out for anything. You guys got a whole world out there, a whole community you can tap into. Don't be shy. Don't be stubborn. Do it out of love or do it out of fear, but reach out. Don't forget, you got anybody at a single push of a button on your phone. So here we go. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks again, everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the next one. We're out.